Hey guys, and welcome back to another Deepwoken video. So today we're basically going to be ranking every Deepwoken race, in the tier list, and we're just gonna break it down to each category to determine, which one is the best, and I'll be telling you guys why I put each in each. But I also want to mention that as you can see in the tier list, I did forget to put Chrysid in the tier list, but I did end up putting Tyrann at the end. But after I was on the video, and since this is a voiceover, I just realized that I forgot to put Chrysid in though, because it wasn't in the tier list thing anyways. So we're just gonna start with the Etrian race, and I have to honestly put this at above average, which would be like an A tier. And the reason is that because I know in the last video I was talking about how under-OP this race is and how mid it is, but it's really because this is a common race to get. But even though it's the most common to get, basically gives you autodidact for free, which basically means that every time you level up, you get 3 points to invest to any level of your choice, any stats of your choice, just for free. Just gotta go at the campfire and then add it. And in general, it saves you from having to choose it as a boon, and I think it's a very solid race trait. Definitely very good for progression, if not probably the best. And this race, I'm pretty sure, is the most common race to get. I'm not too sure that's wrong, but that or Grammar are basically like the most common to get, which is pretty crazy because they're both very solid races in general. Next, we have the Cano race. So I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. The Cano may look better for drip and stuff, but if we're being real, in terms of trade, the Cano is probably the most terrible one I've seen so far. Unfortunately for Cano, it's very just useless because all it does is, if you're in a fight with your allies, right? And so if you're fighting alongside your allies, it just reduces the damage you do to them, which is just hella useless because that's the only thing it does. That's the only thing Canor has to offer, which is hella disappointing for it, even though it's harder to get than Adred, which is crazy. Next, we have the Capra race. So I'm not gonna lie, Capra is actually a very good race, and it is one of the rarest to get as well at 2%. And the thing with Capra is that if you choose, depending on which variant you choose, you either free people from Insanity, you either make them heal faster, or you basically, when someone eats food next to you, it basically makes it more nutritional for them in the game, which means that the hunger and stuff will last longer, which I think is just very, very solid. But I don't think it's crazy good, but it's an above average for progression. It's a good perk to have, I'd say. I also want to note that the results you're seeing at the moment as I make the tier list isn't the final result, and towards the end is where everything is actually finished and stuff. So next we have the Duke Aricia race, the Celtor race. The issue with Celtor race is, as cool as it is to make a Duke build, unfortunately, bro, it's pretty useless race like Cano. It's probably better than Cano in terms of having cheaper boats and controlling and steering your boats better, but that's all it gives. It's again a very useless race to have in terms of progressing and stuff like that, so it's honestly below average. Next we have Etrian, one of the most common races to get and also one of the best races to also get. Similarly, I would say it's nearly as good as Adred, but the only reason Adred is so high is because of the 3 points you can invest. As for Etrian, you basically, the status of poisoned, just negative statuses on you, they last a lot shorter than other races. You get an extra HP point, and Acid Rain also does less damage to you. Overall, it's a very good race to have in general, in terms of surviving and just getting hit with all those poison effects and stuff. But honestly, it's not crazy good. It's a very average, very mediocre race. Next up, we have one of my favorite races, the Felinor races. I'm not saying this to be super, but I like the Felinor in terms of drip and stuff. But something else I really like about Felinor is the agility. So your climbing multiplier, I guess you could call it, your agility is increased by 1.25 times, which is pretty good, honestly. It's decent. But when it comes to wooden surfaces, so if you want to run up a tree and be an actual Felinor, right, you get a 1.5 times boost in agility, which is pretty cool. and it has increased stealth, which perfect for assassin builds, and overall it's a very good to make track star builds. Next up we have the Ganymede race, a race I just can't seem to get no matter what. But anyways, the Ganymede race is very solid. In terms of talking to shrines and having to use knowledge, you get a discount on knowledge, which is very cool. So I think, for example, if you talk to a shrine and you need 5 knowledge, you only need like 4 or something, which is still good, that's a knowledge saved. And your depths insanity is like the gain of insanity you get from the depths is like reduced by a lot. So very solid race, honestly. One of the best races still, I'd have to say, because it just makes progressing so much easier. Next up, we have the Grimoire race. So I'm not gonna lie, this race is actually kind of underrated, but I think it's pretty solid as a race in general. It's better than a lot of races than you'd think. So, I'm pretty sure it has also survivalist, similar to Etrian. That's drain doesn't hurt you though, I'm pretty sure, which is cool. Comes with that. You are less prone to starvation because your hunger bar is, longer. And you have this compass that always points to the east. I'm not too sure what that, points to. Maybe it goes to like that nomad camp, but I'm not too sure, bro. But you have some compass that points east, which probably just helps with directions in general. And you also basically get, so if you're blind, if you get the blindfold, or if you use like a blindfold, basically you have this like bigger range of vision, which is pretty cool if you're going like a blind sea build or something like that. Next up, we have the Khan race. So basically, the Khan race is a very good for progression, and it can either save your build or make you be able to get extra silence or things like that. Because what you can do is you can equip equipment or weapons 3 points before your actual requirement of whatever you're trying to equip and stuff. Definitely very solid race. Okay, so now we have Vesperian. So Vesperian is definitely one of the best races to prog builds, especially PvE builds. It's pretty much the best for PvE builds anyways, because the starting stat points are, one of them is durability, I think it was fortitude and strength, or something like that, but basically the best way to make your PvE build anyways. And in general, for progression, this race does give you a 5% natural armor called Chitin, which does stack with exoskeleton, meaning you can make a very tanky build with this race. Now for Crysid, I didn't add it in the tier list, but I'm just going to say here, so Crysid is an average-ish race. It could vary higher or lower, but it's mostly for PvP progression. Void Walking, I'd say it's mainly good for, or if you're getting jumped by a Void Walker, you can see where they are and stuff, if you need to fight them and stuff. But that's really all it has, so I'm just going to keep it average, but it does definitely vary. And yeah, mainly good for PvP progression. Okay, so for the last one, we have the Tyran race. So Tyran is like somewhat good in terms of survivability. It's not very like useful for build making and stuff like that. It's really just got a glider buff where you have your own glider and you just glide higher than other people. But apart from that, it's pretty useless. It doesn't have much to it. If we're talking about build wise, anyways, like statistically, it is a cool looking race though. Definitely you can make cool builds with it. But again, it doesn't do anything for the build. It's very average, very mid, and yeah, that's just. And it is a 2% race, so that's just what I'm thinking. It's kind of average for a really rare race. That's gonna be all for the tier list. Hopefully you guys agree with most of my points. Let me know in the comments like what you guys think as well. I think this is like a pretty fair tier list, honestly. Like, I might have to rearrange a bit, like maybe putting Cell Tool to like below average ish, just changing things around. But this is practically the last result of my tier list. If you guys want a little hint, if you're new to the game and you want to say which race has the best perks. But then again, I also want to say that the race you have doesn't determine your whole gameplay. This isn't Rogue Lineage, so it's very different. You can play well with literally any other race. It's just like extra perks. So that's going to be all for now, and I'll see you guys on the next one.